What's up, guys, and welcome back to the infamous project. I am really hoping I managed to get this video out to you guys, as today is Tuesday and it means that I only have tonight to be able to edit up the footage that I've taken and get this released for you guys tomorrow on Wednesday. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, it has been a hell of a week. I am determined that black fox bodies are cursed. There's been lots of little things. Project Tax Return has just been fighting me nonstop. I'll go into that in a little bit, but let's talk about my personal 1991 Dutch Coupe, as that is where the footage was headed for this video. So if you guys remember, in the last episode, I was focused on getting the suspension swapped over and also the brakes. So I'd put on the Dutch front floating rotor setup, which is super rare, and I installed the Raceland coilovers, and then I left you guys hanging by putting the car down kind of from this angle where you couldn't see which wheels I ended up putting on the car. Well, I'm not going to make you guys wait too long. We're going to pan over this way, and you are going to see I decided to go with an ROH ZS. I picked these wheels up. Actually, this set weren't the ones that I picked up. This is a set that Mr. Notorious had. We did a swap for a 5-bolt set that I had. Long story short, they're freshly refurbished, and they look fresh. Like, they look like they're brand new. The only downfall, they're a square setup. So they're 17 by 8.5 all the way around. It doesn't have the staggered 9.5s in the rear. Now, with that said, I did pick up a set of staggered 8.5, 9.5 rears out of Hawaii off of Marketplace not too long ago, but they are sitting down in Texas. So once I can get my hands on those wheels, I'll be getting those ones. I'll be painting the centers white to match the car, and I'll be going back to like my old original theme on this car. So you can see the front is still sitting a tad higher than the rear. It's very, very close. What I managed to do was take out one of the lock ring on the spanner nuts, because I have it set all the way down, so it really doesn't need a locking ring. And I think it's going to go down a little bit more once the car actually moves. It actually has not moved off those 2x4s since the last video. As you guys know, I've been juggling a lot of projects, and I haven't really had too much time to give to this thing other than getting the car audio set up. So I'm going to go over a few things that I did in terms of getting the car audio done. That includes installing the rare MDX-400 mini disc changer, getting the pre-out and everything installed underneath the passenger seat, and going all the way into the 3.5 component door speakers, and a bunch of amplifier wiring, going back to the trunk, getting the sub hooked up, and doing a bunch of tests. I've already ripped out the old head unit. I've ripped out the passenger seat, and just assessing some of the wiring here. The main original harnesses have been cut off. To be honest with you guys, I don't remember if it was me who did that. It very well could have been back in the day. Just goes to show that, 20 years ago when we had these cars, they were just a simple fox body. It wasn't, and we're young and dumb. So things like trying to retain and keep all the original harnesses and stuff, even having the plug and play adapters weren't readily available. It's going back to the days when, people used to steal head units all the time. They'd just go in, cut the harnesses and yank them out. So with that said, we really don't need too many wires here, because of that head unit that's going in is pre-out only. And in fact, I actually just need to get power to the pre-out unit, which I believe I'm going to mount underneath the passenger seat here, kind of make it like the original factory amplifiers, which were mounted underneath the passenger seat. So I'm just kind of assessing some of the wiring. Some of it is stuff that I had run from before, looking at a bunch of speaker wires down here that are run along the passenger side rocker panel. This is all old Phoenix Gold speaker wire, so I'm going to leave all that in here. But what I am going to remove are these two sets of RCAs. I got new ones that I'm going to run, and again, they just come from the pre-out unit and will go back to the trunk to where the amplifier is. So I'm going to pull all these guys back. Looks like they're running underneath here. These aren't the ones that I had from before. There's clearly been some stuff that's changed, because when I sold the car, I took out all of my stereo. I left the wiring, but I took out the stereo. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to pull out some of these wires, and we'll get a harness made that will consist of the 12-volt power switch accessory and a ground, because it's all we need to power up the pre-out unit. So I will get those sources from the original wiring from the radio, so that way at least the fused power for the radio will be consistent with the actual stereo. Stone, I didn't smoke any of the ganja. Nope. Wasn't that type of dude. I might have known the ones, but I was not the ones.
I tried it for a week.
You tried it for a week?
Yeah.
Like you were just like, oh, I'm gonna be...
Oh, a few buddies were doing shit in high school. Nothing for me, man. I'm like, you guys are idiots.
Yeah, pretty much how I felt about it. All right, guys, so you might have seen my little nice wire trick there. So holding true to the wiring colors for a radio head unit. Yellow is your constant 12 volts, red is your switch accessory, and black is ground. So did a nice little twisty loop here. So we'll do our connections there. I'm going to run this cable down underneath. I'm going to slide it underneath the center console, then bring it down underneath the seat over this way. Just kind of keep things simple. And I want to keep all power away from the RCA cables as well, or anything else that can cause some distortion. All right, guys, so it started out to just be simple stereo power wire install. I was trying to test on our wires for that constant 12 volts, and I wasn't getting it. And I double, triple, quadruple checked the wiring. I couldn't figure it out. So just kind of took a deep breath, did some research online, and noticed that I should check my fuses. And one thing about your constant 12 volt wire that's down in your radio harness down here is that it is actually integrated into your courtesy light system. So if you notice right now, none of the courtesy lights are on with the doors open, and that fuse was actually blown, probably a result of having the doors open so long with things getting hot. So needless to say, changed the fuse, everything worked. Then I pulled the fuse back out just because, well, the doors are sitting open again. So we got that sorted out, and I ended up finding out that there was a couple screws missing for the center console, so I got that fixed. And then I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead, pull the cluster out, and change the bulbs over to LED. So I got the cluster sitting on my lap here, and the nice thing about the 90 and above clusters, they're actually labeled ILL for illumination. So there is, I think there's 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A lot of people ask me which bulbs I use. It's these guys right here, Sirius LED. Get these off Amazon. Pack of 10 will pretty much do your car, because you use 6 in the cluster, you'll use 2 in the heater controls, which I've already done, 1 in your glove box light, and it will actually work up here as well. And then you can do the 2 in your license plate lights if you want, and that pretty much ticks all the boxes. Go ahead, pull these bulbs out, super straightforward. Pull that out, pull the peanut bulb out, replace it with one of these guys. You know, make sure you plug your harness in after and check, make sure that everything is working. If it is, go ahead, bolt your cluster back together, and good to go. Nice bright LED illumination. How many of you guys still have this metal piece underneath your steering column? A lot of people, they take these out and you never see them again. You can see down here underneath the seat area, here is the whole tuner preamp unit for the head unit. Head unit is mounted in there. Still need to clean up some of the speaker wires running to the front, and everything is kind of tucked away nice and neat down there. Got 3 sets of RCAs that come off of the preamp unit, all here. Yeah, you can see it's a pretty quality cable, pretty thick, and got the remote wire wrapped around there as well. So when you compare those cables to these that pretty much look like speaker wire, sure there's going to be a big difference in quality. So gonna rip these out and run these to the trunk and get some stuff buttoned up in the front here. Finishing up dash and tweeter install. So I found these JL Audio 3.5s. They're already installed in here, and way back in the day I had a component set and had tweeters custom mounted up on the top in the A-pillars, and they weren't hooked up. So what I've done is I'm actually going to run the tweeters off the capped side of these 3.5s. So in reality, what that's going to do is it's going to bridge down the tweeter side of things, but it really shouldn't have that much of an impact at the end of the day, just being a tweeter. So in case you don't know what I mean by the capped side, so this speaker actually has a tweeter and the woofer, so it's almost it is a 2-channel speaker, and what that capacitor does is it filters out all of the lower frequencies to allow to pass only higher frequencies to the tweeter, because that's what we want, and that's what the tweeter's job is. So what I'm doing is taking the tweeter side of things after the capacitor and running that up to the tweeters that are up in the pillars. And I've put some quick disconnects in here just in case either the pillar needs to come out or this woofer is coming out. And I've also gone ahead and put some kill mat down in the 3.5-inch speaker area in the dash. So I just cut out some pieces. It's super flexible, easy to work with, and just kind of molded it in there to kind of make like a little basket for the 3.5, just so that it helps reduce rattles and helps kind of create a basket to help project the sound forward the way that it needs to go. So I'm going to go ahead, get these reinstalled, and then I'll be pulling off the door panel to see what kind of speakers behind here. And no, guys, you cannot just pull this piece of plastic off. If you do that, you're going to break the clips behind it, and you're going to mess up the speaker grill cover, and you might end up being one of those people that pass a screw right through here in order to hold it in place. So this whole door panel is going to be coming off. Might even put some sound deadener behind there, put some kill mat, same thing around the woofer and the speaker area here. And I have a nice set of JL Audio, component set. So the tweeters in the middle, the woofer around. Looks very similar to this setup, in fact, but it has passive crossovers. I'll get into that in a minute. So get this installed, get this door panel off. Everything is working. I got 2 little amps in the trunk here. I'll show you guys. It's a disaster. This will all get cleaned up. You can see here 2 little JL amps. It's a 4-channel, and that's a mono block that's running this DB drive 10-inch sub right here. And actually here's the passive crossovers, which I was talking about earlier, for our door speakers that are going to get installed. So that's about it, guys. Get these installed, get the door panel off, and get things cleaned up after, most importantly. And our car audio on this car should be pretty much complete and sounding great. So one thing about this car, when I got it, it was gray interior, no power options. Did come with AC from factory, but I converted all the interior over to genuine black, as you can see here. And map pockets, of course, have been fixed and sag free. And I also put in all the power windows. And that right here, guys, if your armrests actually have these screws in the back here, very few do. It's like people can't find the hole when they take this one out, and results in it not going back in. All right. Even have our factory sound deadener behind here, so that's a nice bonus. as you can see here, guys, there's actually 4 terminals, and one is for the woofer and one's for the tweeter. They're clearly marked, so I only have 1 wire running into the door here. Again, my old Phoenix Gold wiring from back in the day. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this guy through, right through the grommet and in here, and also I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of Dynamat around here, and I'm going to stick a piece on the inside of the door down in there, just again to help with the vibrations and help kind of insulate the sound some. All I can say, the stereo sounds phenomenal. I'm extremely happy with the way that the stereo sounds. Unfortunately, I can't play any music for you guys, unless I guess I downloaded some of my licensed music. But I assure you this system sounds phenomenal. So we have a 5 1/4 inch speaker in the door, component set. So it's a 2-way, so woofer and tweeter, JL audio. We have 2-way JL audio 3.5 in the dash. Again, woofer, tweeter. We have tweeters up in the A-pillars, which those are connected into the 3.5s. So right there, technically speaking, there's 5 speakers and per corner. And then in the back, there's a set of, or a pair of 3-way 6x9s. I'm not 100% sure of the brand, but they're hooked up. And I'm not too concerned about the 6x9s in the rear. I allow the sub to do its work back there, and I allow all the components and everything else up here to do what it needs to do. I did get one Recaro installed, one of my Recaro SEs that I got out of storage, so that's looking good. I still need to get the driver's seat in, but what else got done? LED conversion, so full LED lights, did the cluster, did the climate controls, did all those things. I still need to swap out those pillar gauges. The 2.5 inch gauges are just too big. So I'm going to be downgrading those to a couple of 2-inch gauges in there. And yeah, that should be good to go. It was definitely interesting playing with a bunch of wiring that I remembered from before. Most of all the wiring that I installed still in the car to this day. So I really didn't have to run anything other than the new RCA cables. Now in here, it's absolutely filthy and atrocious because it was just a matter of making sure everything could get hooked up, that it's working, and testing everything, which it is. So now I'm going to be on project cleanup of all of this. But gives you guys a really good idea. This 110-inch sub actually sounds really great. It does its job. And if you remember my last video, this box is actually for a Corvette, and I don't know which year or era, but it kind of fits quite nice in there. Got this little template made up, so be cutting, trimming out a custom piece here and getting it covered in some carpet. And that should look really good in the end. Give you guys a sneak peek of the LED lights here. So you can see how nice and bright that cluster is. Got our climate controls. Does have a little bit of a bright spot around the 80-mile-an-hour mark, but aftermarket gauges. So that's that. Got the LEDs changed in the taillights as well. If you guys remember, I was talking about how they were still first generation LEDs. Technology's come a long way. Those are nice and super bright. So those are 3156 bulbs plus the peanut bulbs on the side, both in red, and look great. And of course, I put 2 LEDs in the license plate area. So that kind of gives you guys an idea of everything that's going on there. I'm really excited to get this car done so I can actually drive and enjoy it. You can see that the lower control arms are still sitting over there. The panhard bar is on the ground. Those lower control arms are still seized. Well, the bolt's still seized in there, so that needs to come out. And that's pretty much the update on the 1991 Dutch Coupe.